Hello everybody, God bless you all, and welcome to the next video. So we're just going to continue our study with this Holy of Holies, both the enemy and the Father's birthing places for their people. So part 3 here, we're probably going to have another part, one or two more, just with everything that's being shown, but let's get started. So this is the mural in the United Nations. And obviously you see some sort of phoenix rising here. It's got this dead carcass below it and a new creation here out of it. Down below you have the sword, which is some sort of reptilian type creature with its head wrapped around holding this sword. And of course here is the wedding supper of the Lamb in a football shape or a womb shape. So they know this. Okay, they've known this. They are waiting for it to happen. It's not a big secret to them. Okay, they have the wisdom, but they don't have Christ. Essentially, is what's going on. So what we have is a parallel going on, as we talked about in the last video. I can scroll up here. We talked about the phoenixes. The palms are the phoenixes. They're the ones coming out of the ashes. The Lord's going to refine them through the fire. Many of them are in the valley of decision. We talked about how Jesus did a miracle with Lazarus, and that was the trigger that woke everybody up. And the multitudes that greeted Jesus coming into Jerusalem were laying down their garments, which is symbolic of laying down their lives for Christ. And they took the palm branches again, which goes back to Revelation, the great multitude where no man can number, palms in their hands, many people welcoming Christ. So that's just kind of a quick review. And then we took this word palms back to the word phoenix, which of course is the mystical bird that rises. Okay, bird in the Bible also can mean winged creature of heaven, which sounds like a lot like angels. So there's all these little connections here, and that's for you to take to the Lord and pray over and ask Him what He shows you on that. But that's what we have. What we have going on is a parallel, though. And what I want you to see is as the beast rises from World War III and the cataclysmic events that are going to occur to establish peace, to establish prosperity, make things back the way they were. Oh, we're not going to go back to the way they were. We're going to go even better. Just like the beam that Obama signed, we remember, we rebuild, we come back stronger. The WWW or 666, blah, blah, blah. Many are going to greet him in the same way that Jesus was greeted when he came into Jerusalem by the multitudes. All right. The parallel here is as the beast rises, many are going to change to forgetting about religion, forgetting about Jesus, kind of like, we're going to go with this system. We want to go with this system because this is going to be even better. And we're going to obtain our own immortality through technology. And that's what it's going to be. That's the whole transhumanism movement. That's the whole RFID movement. That's the whole bonding with a spirit. That's you're being yoked with the spirit of the fallen, which goes back to the movie Venom, how he's yoked with that creature in Venom. It continues. There's so many parallels of this, but that's the general consensus of what we have going on. These two parallels of two phoenixes, one of the enemy birthing and one of Christ's birthing, or the Holy of Holies. So he's birthing his kingdom simultaneously, or maybe even a bit before the Lord births his kingdom. Because remember, we have, if you go back to the Bible and you look at all the twins references, and I'm talking like Cain and Abel, Esau and Jacob, all these twins, the evil twins always birth first. So the evil kingdom always comes first. But just as twins are born, within quick succession of each other, so too will the kingdoms be birthed. Okay? So this is what they're wanting, to come out of the ashes of destruction in a new world order to achieve immortality. And I'm going to show you a quick video that highlights this. This is Dr. Richard Seed, psychiatrist, human cloning researcher. And we're going to get into this cloning and a couple different things here, some weird stuff here in a little bit. But listen to what he says.
We are going to become gods. period. If you don't like it, get off. You don't have to contribute. You don't have to participate. But if you're going to interfere with me becoming God, we're going to have big trouble. And we'll have warfare. The only way you can prevent me in this 50-year is to kill me. You kill me, I'll kill you.
So that's their agenda. They want to become like gods. And they think that they can do this and accomplish this through the enemy's plan, which is technology, which is the RFID, which is bonding or yoking with a spirit in their fleshly bodies. Their bodies will deteriorate and utterly become useless eventually. However, that spirit yoking with them will give them that. It will give them special ability, but it's well, I've done several videos on the mark of the beast. It's going to eventually eat at them and destroy them. So far too many people are glued to this world, okay? And when the beast comes onto the scene with the fallen, okay, and the fallen angels fixing things from the world war and the earth, he's going to be welcomed with these open arms, the same way that Jesus was welcome in Jerusalem. And you can see these parallels when you start to look at what the enemy's doing and what Jesus has done, and you start to compare notes with the two. You begin to see these parallels and these things, these diabolical things that he's doing, the enemy, that contradicts exactly what God did or Jesus Christ did. So Jesus came under humility, riding a colt. The enemy will come in as a king or elevated world leader. Lying signs and wonders, technology, will astonish and convince many that he is God. Jesus, on the flip side of this, he is going to resurrect the dead in Christ, which ignites the fence sitters and will bolster the truth that he is indeed the Son of God. That single miracle convinced many of his actual identity and bolstered the faith of those around him. So I want to take note here that Jesus and his disciples who followed him, so too the enemy has key people in key positions to assist him in his kingdom that are his devout followers. I see this right now happening in America. Okay, so I'm talking about this new movement that's going on. And so real quick, just talk about this for a second. So Jesus, again, resurrected Lazarus, which goes back to the dead in Christ, all right, which is essentially the transformation of the bride that's going to go out and work the harvest, conducting miracles. And these won't be the lying signs and wonders that the enemy's using as technology. These will be actual miracles. And there's many prophetic words on these. People walking into hospitals and everyone just getting up out of their beds and walking out. There's, raising the dead. Even Jesus said in his word, you will do greater miracles than these. And he's talking about himself, the miracles that he did. So all these things are going to coincide with the lying signs and wonders that the enemy will be doing. And that single miracle convinced many of the actual identity. So now we have this in the news, and then kind of in the spotlight, we have Kanye West and Brad Pitt. And I say Brad Pitt because I've seen these news articles pop up in my news feed too. How these two self-proclaimed now have found Christ. And that Kanye's even started a church already, with 1,000 people being born again the other day. These are two self-proclaimed Christians who are going to lead many astray. Remember, if you're of the world is going to love you, okay? If you're not of the world, then they're not going to love you. It's exactly what is going on. The enemy is taken, and I did a video on this, for many will come with my name as the video. And it ties scripture to these types of things that are going to happen. So these and many others, but these two have recently made headlines of self-proclaimed faith. Honestly, do you think the media would even cover a Christian Hollywood conversion, much less someone like Kanye West or Brad Pitt, if the conversion was Holy Spirit led? Remember, when you were born again, if you are born again, there was many tears, there was supplication, there was repentance, there was crying, there's servitude, there's all these things that go along with it, as you're being changed into a new creature. And I'm not seeing it with these. That's just my opinion. Okay. I got nothing against these two, but again, I'm also wise, and I'm not going to let, just because the New York Post says that these two are now born again, does not convince me, okay? A friend of mine who is very good with names, and names mean everything in the Bible, okay? If you are a Christian, look up your first name, what it means. There's many different meanings, or there's many different reasons why God has named you. And a friend of mine even told me that, he got a word from Christ, and Christ said, I specifically name my people, okay? It's not your parents that name you. I put in their heart what I want them to name you. And this was no different. And I got to thinking, ye in the Bible is you, or in the Old English, so Kanye, I don't know. So anyway, I've heard that in my spirit, and I'm just going to leave it out there. I believe, okay, that these converts, supposed converts, quotations, are going to be welcome mats for the FEMA camps. Think about it. All these people that we've loved and trusted and watched their movies and listened to their music and have fallen in love with, the stars of Friends, or, all these different people that, have made us laugh and we love their work. They are going to be the welcome mats for FEMA, convincing many people to go and get quote unquote help. Okay. And, that the NWO will have their best interest in mind. Okay. So I'm just throwing that out there as a cautionary flag as you run the race, to be mindful of that. And, maybe if you see this video and it happens, then you'll know it's true. Look at Acts. What did the disciples do? Okay, they were hidden. All right, they were going house to house, spreading the gospel. They healed. They helped others. They challenged authority. Okay, they challenged authority. They didn't coexist and coincide with authority. Okay, they were on the run. Okay, and they were being sought after. Is that what we're seeing here with these guys? No, it's not. So the context is the exact opposite, okay, that these false converts will heal and not help anyone unless a camera's around, and will lead the unassuming others to the fallen's healing centers, FEMA camps, and torture chambers. If you watch the miniseries V, and I'm not talking about the old one, I'm talking about the new one in the 90s, then you'll see what I'm talking about, okay, how these people will be used as pawns to get them to go to these horrible places. Okay. Whoops. And this is just a verse that came to mind. As the serpent beguiled Eve through his subtlety, that for he that come preacheth another Jesus whom we have not preached, or you've received another spirit which you have not received, or another gospel which you've not accepted, you might well bear with them. So yeah, just be careful of these people. Okay, and if what I say is true, time will tell. Okay, well, time will tell. Many will come in my name. Take heed that no man deceives you. Okay, back to the Phoenix. Phoenix, again, is a long-lived bird. We talked about bird, angels, feathers, heaven, birds of heaven. Okay, cynically regenerates or otherwise born again, associated with the sun. A phoenix obtains new life by arising from the ashes of its predecessor. Now, we're going to get into this in the next video, but not this one. But keep in the back of your mind, and I'll try to remember to revert back to this, but in ancient Greece and Rome, the phoenix was sometimes associated with the similar sounding Phoenicia, a civilization famous for its production of purple dye from conch shells. Purple dye. I'm going to do a video that talks about this purple. Okay, we're going to get into that probably in the next video. But keep that in the back of your mind. The Phoenicians were the Canaanites, by the way. The Masonic Canaanites along with Phoenicia. We'll get into that in the next video. Because of the costly purple dye was associated with the upper classes in antiquity and later with royalty in medieval period, the phoenix was considered the royal bird. Again, we have an NWO rising. They are going to have this prestige air about them, okay, that they are better than everybody else, that they are rulers of the world. And that's exactly what Satan has promised them, the world. You will rule the world under my authority. And that's exactly where we're getting this purple. And remember we talked about the parallel. Their parallels that purple. All right, we're going to get into it. Just a quick side note, red and blue, we have red and blue, right, in political parties make purple when they mix. Okay, so and out of a civil war, this is going to occur. So just keep that in mind. Okay, so the picture, I did a video on a rooster, talks about rooster being described as the one that breaks the mark of the beast. So it just kind of, this dramatist, this Ezekiel, compared it to a rooster, which essentially is, before the cock crows, you will deny me 3 times. There's a video on that I just did in my thread. You can check that out. So it's no secret that the Hunger Games is an apocalyptic theme. Actually, I'm going to just pull the picture of this video up so you can see it real quick. It's the video called Cloacal Kiss. So you can see that talks about the rooster and being betrayed here in that video. It's very short, so check that out if you want to. Okay. So it's no secret the Hunger Games has an apocalyptic theme. It's the type of environment the world will become during the enemy's time. His people will rise into power and wealth, and on the backs of those who oppose through harsh rule, which is the iron and clay, iron being harsh rule or harsh leadership, control, fear, and manipulation. A lot of similarities with the Phoenix Rising and the Mockingjay and everything else, which we'll get into a little bit here. Notice this was in the 1970s, the Illuminati ball. I'm sure many have seen these pictures compared to the extravagant way these people are dressed and as the quote-unquote elite of the world at this point, becoming their little phoenixes. Okay, everything with Christ is centered on humility. It's setting on servitude. It's set on following the example of Christ. Satan elevates everything through pride, through his strength, and we'll get into that towards the end in the conclusion. But those are the pillars that he, through his strength, is how he established his kingdom. The Lord uses the Spirit, and his strength is through the flesh, essentially. With this new awakening into the enemy's kingdom, worldly knowledge will greatly increase, just as spiritual knowledge has greatly increased in the followers of Christ. Anything and everything to destroy God's image, and I'm talking about animals, atmosphere, the earth, the people, will greatly be manipulated by technology and transhumanism. Just as we have God's kingdom, God's animal kingdom, God's heavenly kingdom, Satan has also copied animals, atmosphere, 5G. Okay, I'm sure in heaven, many people have spoke of, through thought, I communicated with this person who was escorting me to heaven, or through thought, this angel told me that I needed to do something or whatever. Satan's going to change that to the 5G. Everything's going to be that 5G through technology. Animals. I'll get into the animals here in a little bit. But that's essentially what he's doing. He's trying to copy in a diabolical way everything that God has done. So the Hunger Games, set in a cashless society. After wars were triggered, a cashless society occurs, which led to the Dark Days, a bunch of civil wars. Okay, you seen the similarities already in this? Mark of the Beast, cashless society. Okay, Dark Days, darkness is going to increase. It's going to be dark before it's light. A bunch of civil wars to fight back against the financial classist oppressors. What does that sound like? The elite, which was lost at first and then won back in the final Hunger Games. Okay. Obviously, this place is called Pan Am, which is the capital, the home of the government, outlying districts. The capital also likes to watch people kill each other in the Hunger Games, and there's this thing called reaping, which goes back to harvesting, okay? And that's this time period we're going to be looking at when the beast starts to rule the world, okay? This is the things that we're going to see. We're going to see a cashless society. We're going to have civil wars, dark days. We're going to have, there's going to be, if you ever saw the movie, The Book of Acts, there was 2 facets of fighters. You had those that were followers of Christ that were out trying to preach the gospel, And then you had the, I guess, the militia that was trying to repel Rome. And they were trying to do it through strength. They were trying to do their own strength, weapons, different things. We're going to try to assassinate, and they assassinated a guard in the movie, or I can't remember, it was a miniseries, I think. They assassinate like this Roman centurion or whatever. So they were trying to fight back in a fleshly way. It's not going to happen. The beast will overcome them. It's written in the Bible. That's the way it's going to occur. He will overcome those people. He will overcome the saints. However, that's not the, the way that's what Satan wants, the bloodshed. Okay. But that's not going to be the way that God wants it to happen. So let's see here. Okay. So this is the verse. This is our cashless society right here. Free and poor, rich or poor, free and bond, to receive mark in the right hand, that they might buy, sell, that he that has that mark, or the name of the beast. Every king, and this is our civil war. Every kingdom divided against itself will be brought to desolation. And of course, we can see the civil war occurring, guys. If you can't, then I don't know what to tell you. Every day it's left against right, hate against, hating each other. And not only that, but they're igniting their bases in the cities, and they're igniting their districts to rise up. Essentially, they're encouraging Antifa. They're encouraging the militias. You got the right wing, quote unquote, Bible thumping Christian gun toting people, and then you got, of course, Antifa against, and it's just it's ridiculous. They're going back to their party base, and they're trying to incite riots. They're trying to incite hate against each other, and that's exactly what they're doing. Just like he says here, if Democrats are successful in removing president from office, which they never will be, because it will cause a civil war, like a fracture in this nation from which our country will never heal. This is what they're hoping for. They're trying to ignite this civil war. Excuse me. Okay, Pan Am. Pan Am comes from the Latin word bread, which comes from the saying bread and circus. Panem et circenses, referring to the Romans' willingness to give up their political power for entertainment and food. The government is a totalitarian police state dictatorship similar to Rome. Okay. This district obviously has what they call the peacekeepers, which are the militaristic police, and the capital is extremely wealthy, derives most of its benefits of advanced technologies. Remember, going back to this movie, is right out of the Bible. So we have the benefits of advanced technology, computers, hover planes, which, are drones, high-speed trains. Oh, there was just actually, this came out too. Let me show you. This is my subscription page, and you can see here, Dabu 7 talks about California approving a huge... sorry. Shut up.
There's been a lot of talk
of this $3 billion high-speed train. So you can see the parallels if you're looking.
In the past, and in the right situation, he could probably do some good.
But anyway, I'm not going to play the whole thing. But it's there. I mean, you just got to look. It's there. It's all happening. This Pan Am, this Hunger Games, it's all there. Okay. So high-speed trains, visiting tributes who have grown with the threat of starvation, poverty, are shocked when they consider waste. Okay. Sorry about that. Just kind of skimming through here. But anyway, here's a couple quotes about bread and circus, which I thought were very, very interesting. The evil was not in bread and circuses per se. And if you don't know what bread and circuses are, essentially it's just the Roman Colosseum. Give them entertainment, keep them happy, keep them fed, keep them entertained, and we can go do what we need to do behind the scenes, and no one will be none the wiser. So that's the political thought on the masses. So this quote here says, the evil was not in bread and circus per se, but in the willingness of the people, these people, right, all through this Colosseum, but the willingness of the people to sell their rights as free men for full bellies and the excitement of the games, which served to distract them from other human hungers, which bread and circuses can never appease. This other human hungers, spiritual awakening. plays, farces, spectacles, gladiators, strange beasts. Take a look at this picture here. You see a three-headed dog. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Plays, farces, spectacles, gladiators, strange beasts, medals, pictures, and other opiates, all right, sedatives. These were for ancient peoples the bait towards slavery, the price of their liberty, their instruments of tyranny. Nothing wrong with going to a game, but when this becomes such an idol, there's a problem. When you're dressing like a gator and acting a fool, or if you're a Gator fan, I mean, whatever, and you know, going to every single game and this becomes your worship center, then there's an issue with that. I enjoy a good football game every once in a while like anybody else, but I mean, there's some people going way over the top. And I tell you, this is where I went way over the top. I loved UFC. I really loved UFC. You know, being in the military and everything else. I really loved watching UFC. And again, bread and circus. Keep them entertained. Okay, so in the, if you haven't paid attention, start paying attention. In the Hunger Games, we had these genetic engineering things take place in this arena where they fought. Okay, so the government of Pan Am uses genetic engineering to create animals which play into Hunger Games or otherwise serve Pan Am's political purposes. So let me just pause right here. Satan not only is birthing a human kingdom, he is also birthing an animal kingdom. Okay? Part of that kingdom are dinosaurs. God did not create the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the raptor, any of those dinosaurs. Okay? He would have housed them on the ark if he did. They were wiped out in the flood. They were genetic mutations at the times of Noah. Okay? These things that he is making now, it's all goes back to genetic engineering. Okay? To confound the DNA, to compromise the DNA with animals. And we see this in the news today. If you want to see it, you'll look for it, you'll find it. Pigs and humans, dogs and pigs. You know, all these different mutations are taking place. And I'll throw up a couple articles, and I'll have a few articles in the folder that you can look at. Okay, this is from the book of Giants. Pay attention, please. The fallen ones defiled all creation and begot giants and monstrous creatures, and corrupted all the earth, which was filled with blood shed at the hands of the giants. But this did not suffice them. And they were seeking all the time to devour, to destroy many, much more. The monsters attacked all creation. The former, the wicked angels, consumed everything that the earth produced. The fish, the birds, the fruit, the grain, the trees, even the beasts and the reptiles they committed sin against. All creeping things of the earth they observed, watched, all earthly things. They performed every harsh deed with harsh utterance upon male, upon female, and upon humanity itself. Every harsh deed with harsh utterance upon male and female creation and upon humanity itself. They're mixing animals with human beings and DNA. You say, no, God won't allow that. Well, take heed, because it is happening. And I will show you how it's happening. The 200 angels seized 200 donkeys, 200 asses, 200 sheep, rams, flocks, 200 goats, beasts of the field, of every former animal, of every bird, for experiments and inbreeding with humans and all types of miscegenation. As a result, monsters were created among all perversion due to mingling animal seed with mortal women, similar to the Egyptian gods, satyrs, and possibly even dinosaurs. The historian Josephus mentions that Enoch had business in Egypt and called Syriat. Take a minute, let that sink in. This is happening then, as in the days of Noah. It's happening now. Okay? In the movie, you'll see these things called tracker jackers. Okay, they're wasps, engineered genetically to become extremely aggressive, tracking their victims and stinging them. Okay, and you'll see them in the movie. They come across a hive of these things. Well, just funny enough, we have these now. Giant hornets, believed to be a new species and the largest in the world, has been discovered in southern China. New giant wasps have giant body lengths, 1/3 longer than the largest hornet, a wingspan that's half an inch wider than previously recorded. The hornet is so much larger that expert thinks it must be a new species. And guess what these things do? They attack beehives. On one hand, you have a bee that produces honey. It produces a fruit for God. It produces a fruit for his people. Honey. It has a job. It has a reason for its creation. All these things do is attack honeybees. And I would venture to say there's even more of these genetic mutations that we don't even know about. One hornet can kill 40 bees a minute. One of these things, 40 bees a minute. Devastating to beehives in Japan. You see what they're doing? They want to destroy humanity so that that humanity will have to rely on them and the beast and the system and the mark and not rely on God. Wolf mutations. Wolf mutations, or mutts, are engineered wolf-like creatures that appear at the end of the 74th Hunger Games. To draw Katniss, Peeta, and Cato into a fight, these creatures are hybrids created by mixing wolf DNA and the DNA of deceased tributes in order to cause them to resemble those tributes. Can this verse go much deeper than we think? Can it really be verbatim message from Jesus Christ about something far more sinister? Beware false prophets, he says, which come in sheep's clothing, which is skin, our clothing, our flesh, but inwardly are ravening wolves. Head of a dog or jackal, mystical creature, dog-headed. We're going to get into this here just a minute. So, in Michigan, at this place called Seven Shoots, okay, this thing was photographed, as you see it right here, photographed. The guy was taking a photograph of waterfalls, which were right here. And I will say, unlike Sasquatch, which we'll get into here in just a second, that this one is not so widely seen, but definitely seen by many different people and documented, as you can see here. So this guy right here describes a 7-foot-tall, blue-eyed amber creature, bipedal canine-like animal, torso of a man, and howls of a human scream. And these are, this is what we have. We have this snout of like a baboon. It appears he's carrying something, maybe a dog, or I don't know what. The artist here thought it might be a dog's tail, right here. But there's definitely a creature here. And we see this, the evidence of this, way back. It happened. Anubis, canine man, dog's head. Wepowet, a wolf deity. Wolf-like cryptids. In Canada. These are documented things. I mean, you might say, well, this is all just legend. Could be, but it supports exactly what we're talking about. Exactly what we're talking about. And this is a harder, not many people come forward and say, I saw a wolf man. But there are cases out there. There are podcasts out there that talk about these things. So, monkey mutts. 75th Hunger Games had mutated monkeys, razor-sharp claws. Guys, Planet of the Apes is an apocalyptic movie. It's been around for ages. It's been redone. It's been resold. It's been repackaged. Clearly, there's something going on that's going to happen with these apes. Okay. And in the movie, we see him. So I want to play an excerpt of a movie from this lady called Probably Alexandria is her channel. And please take a listen. And it's what she says is very important.
Because in 1949, China became a communist nation. They just celebrated their 70th anniversary. So far, the first two world wars seem to have accomplished the goals set out by Pike and Mazzini. When the public is distracted by things like war, scientists are usually carrying out the most depraved experiments. Since the Fallen taught the weapons and working with death, humanity has literally been caged, hunted, and experimented on like animals. Ancient writings of various cultures depict all sorts of forms of torture. Unfortunately, the scientists we often hail as heroes were nothing but devils themselves, or mad scientists. This section may be a little bit graphic for those who do not want to hear about bizarre experiments or surgical procedures. In the 1940s and 50s, there were plenty of Soviet scientists who were experimenting with all types of things that modern scientism says were pioneers for things like organ transplants. The point was not strictly medical. The point was to figure out how the physiology works so they could manipulate it as they see fit. They perfected nerve gas, torture techniques, and biological weapons. They wanted to bring the dead back to life and capture consciousness. The ultimate goal was control over creation, both physical and mental. Ilya Ivanovich Ivanov made hybrids of mouse rats, zebra donkeys, bison cows, and guinea pig rats. Hey, he even tried a few times to make a half-human, half-ape. There was Sergei Rukoniko, who invented a primitive heart-lung machine called the autojector. The most famous of his experiments were with severed heads of dogs, one of which was able to eat a piece of cheese for the onlooking audience. He did dog head transplants too, and brought executed dogs back to life. And Vladimir Demikhov, the dude that sewed two dogs together. If anyone's curious, Soviet experiments on dogs were recorded in the documentary Experiments in the Revival of Organisms. These men play God. They decide whether an animal lives or dies. They decide whether humans live or die. They study whatever evil agenda they have in mind. During this time period, there was always an esoteric reason. Remember, these are also above-ground scientists. Those in the so-called underworld, as the establishment calls it, are allegedly working with hybrids, which is nothing new. I mean, Nephilim were hybrids. They've always been obsessed with gene manipulation.
We've been investigating a figure named Count Saint Germain. Now, he is a legendary vampire. According to legend, he used blood as a way to extend his life. Jennifer, have there ever been any real-life cases of people consuming blood that would actually prolong their lives?
Well, we've always been fascinated with blood, and back in the 1700s, there's a gentleman known as Paul Bert who actually invented what they call parabiosis. So he basically took two rats, a younger rat and an older rat, he sliced them and sewed them together. The blood from the younger rat actually ended up having benefits to the older, so the older had better cognitive function, was able to go through a maze faster. However, the younger mouse ended up slowing down and wasn't able to maneuver through a maze.
And they were connected through the circulatory system.
Correct. So basically when they were sewn together, the capillaries actually joined together, and so they essentially had one circulatory system.
The, quote, father of biological warfare, Shiroishi, was chief of Japan's biological warfare program in the Japanese military between world wars, whose record includes deliberately infecting thousands of captives with deadly diseases and dissecting over 3,000 live prisoners without anesthesia. We wouldn't know how to properly warm someone up from hypothermia without the grotesque freezing experiments conducted by Sigmund Raicher. He also killed plenty of victims with his portable pressure chamber to see how much weight a human body can withstand. In the name of science, of course. Raicher also developed cyanide suicide pills. This brings me to the most notorious of all, the Angel of Death, also known as Josef Mengele, or the father of modern mind control.
Joseph Mengele was a doctor of philosophy and medicine who performed horrifying experiments on humans and was responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of people.
The German SS officer and physician at the Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camps during this had a bottomless pool of condemned human beings at his disposal. You see the problem? The mind control doctors saw their patients as subhuman, as cattle, guinea pigs. Now, participation by psychiatrists, scientists, and doctors were not just a few random guys interested in mind control. Instead, these experiments were organized and systematic. It involved many psychiatrists and medical schools in good standing, like Yale, Harvard, UCLA, Stanford. The mind control experiments occurred with biological and chemical weapons as well as radiation, all funded by these people. This did not happen the way that the establishment wants you to believe that it did. It's a massive topic worth exploring if you haven't already. The significance of this cannot be underestimated. Some Christians perceive spiritual warfare as something happening on a personal level, just the spiritual personal level. The world is not generally perceived as a threat. The monarch victims of today are the product of centuries of efforts by the Kabbalists, the Brothermens, and occult adepts to completely control human behavior. The reality is, the world and the most powerful people are out to destroy them. That there are real humans and real human institutions that desire to do physical harm to us humans as a whole. When the Monarch programming started, the top men in the Monarch programming project were in the establishment. Yosef Mengele was the lead programmer and had already achieved the rank of Grand Master within the establishment and was a skilled Kabbalistic magician. He disappeared from Auschwitz in January of 1945 when the establishment smuggled him to the U.S., so that his knowledge of programming, which was fine-tuned on thousands of concentration camp child victims, could be put to the use on a mass scale in the U.S. Programming was simplistic before the NZ Germans came over. The reason for all the strange and horrific experimentation was for mind control. Another successful...
Okay, guys, that's what I really wanted to highlight there. Great video. Please check it out. So it talks about these great apes, and there was an interesting word. Now, I did several videos on Bigfoot, so I'm not going to rehash what I found out in the Bible about Bigfoot. However, Esau was considered hairy. The word for hairy in Strong's Concordance points back to this word right here, satyr. And again, it connects with great apes. So we're going to talk about this word satyr, and satyr is in the Bible. And again, I don't want to rehash what I found out exactly in that video, but essentially it is the satyrs were hairy, and it's connected to apes, which is connected to mingling the seed with apes and monkeys and humanity. And that's where you're getting both your Bigfoot and these wild men, which have been documented throughout. Unlike, the dogman, essentially, these Bigfoot or Sasquatch are, much more, I guess, known, in the world today, with the famous videos and sightings and whatnot, and numerous sightings. So hybrid mystical creatures, which are often misidentified with apes or monkeys. Great apes, identifying them with both satyrs and wild men. Again, so this is what we have here. And you heard her talk about the Russian scientist with humanity and female women. There was a lady that Dr. Ketchum, and again, the media will do everything to smear somebody or to destroy what they find if it points to the truth. She found DNA Bigfoot evidence that, let's just read it. So the study, and this was in 2013. So if you haven't heard of this lady, she found DNA, human DNA mixed with ape DNA in Bigfoot. Okay, and this is the study. The study was said to include sequences of 20 whole mitochondrial genomes. Next generation sequencing was used to obtain 3 whole nuclear genomes, if you know what that means. But essentially the bottom line is right here. The mitochondrial DNA was identical to Homo sapiens, but the nuclear DNA was described as novel, unknown hominin related to Homo sapiens and other primate species. Thus, the researchers concluded that from this DNA data, not only does the North American Sasquatch exist, but that it's a hybrid species, the result of males of an unknown hominid species crossing with the female Homo sapien person. And interesting enough that in Isaiah, I'm not sure what chapter it is, but it's verse 14. I think it's 14:14, I think. The wild beast of the desert shall also meet with the wild beast of the island, and the satyr will cry for his fellow. Again, satyr, goat, devil, kid, and this hairy goes back to hairy. Okay, So let's take a listen real quick. I want to play you what people believe a Bigfoot sounds like. Now, there's several different, you've heard, I'm sure, the Finding Bigfoot channel and all that. But this is what I believe to be authentic. There's several different howls out there that people have recorded. I thought this one was pretty good. We're going to play that, and you'll hear that this verse is true. Satyr shall cry or howl to his fellow. I thought this was a pretty good one too. I'm just going to throw it in. I don't know if the other one turned out quite right, so we're going to play this one. It's only a minute long. Oh, okay. Anyway, so that's what we have. So you have Satyr, which is connected to Esau, and Harry as his description. So take a look at those Strong's words if you can. My Bible program is not working on this computer today, so I only have what I have in the document. So I remember I had a dream one time. I was aboard an alien ship. I don't remember much of the dream, except I just knew that there were creatures, dinosaurs, diabolical creatures, Nephilim on board the ship. And I remember telling somebody who looked like he was human, but I don't know if he was, that I was aware of their plans and that there was no fear. God did not create the dinosaurs, and whatever Satan has manipulated is nothing to me. So these things are going to come, and we're going to talk about what God is going to do to contradict this here in the next video. And I kind of want to explain to you. Let me finish this portion first, and I'll segue into that in just a second. So anyway, so just as God released the animals on his ark to go out into the kingdom, to go out into the world, he chose the two animals. Remember that. He brought a male and female squirrel. He brought a male and female giraffe. He brought a male and female, lion on board the ark. He led them there. Okay, just as he, through predators and prey and everything else that were in the earth that could have attacked them, he didn't let that happen. He let them go into the ark unmolested, and when they exited the ark, they went and spread their seed. Now, he just didn't. The animals that he brought on board the ark were without spot or blemish, just like his church that he expects them to be. And of course, it's not a perfection that he's looking for, but it's an obedience and it's a faith in him and his son, in what they're doing in their leadership, not the world. Anyway, so he led these animals and he led these things on the ark. And when they went and released, when the ark came to a rest, they went out and they sowed their seed and restarted the population growth on earth, starting with those two. It's the same thing with his bride. The bride's going to be released as a male and female, as a pair of witnesses into the world to spread the seed of knowledge, to spread the seed of truth, of what's happening in the world. And it's just the same birthing process happening all over again in a different way. You have God's animal kingdom being released. God's kingdom will be released on earth. All right. So, with all these diabolical things going on, and believe me, I've only touched on them, how will people be saved? What on earth can save them at this point? And that's what I want to get into next. Remember, we have one more thing in the Holy of Holies. We had the cherubim, we had the palms, and then we have open flowers. We're going to talk about the open flowers next. One thing I want to get across to you, though, is with all this diabolical things going on and all these creatures and horrible creations that Satan has manipulated, God does have a plan. And part of that plan is God is going to appear to each and every person individually. And I want to get into that now. A friend of mine, Tim Foster, did a study on that, and I'm going to highlight that in here. But in order to have such great faith, it's going to take quite a bit to help people have that faith and retain it during times like this. So we'll get into that in a little bit, and as well as the color purple in the next video. God bless. Thank you for watching.